A few years ago, I was browsing some jobs. I had just been laid off from my job, and I came across a job listing, and one of the requirements was they wanted you to be up to date on your vaccinations. I think amongst the vaccines, they mentioned the MMR because a year before that, there had been a measles outbreak, or so called outbreak, at Disney World. I gotta point out that the people, the kind of demographics who go to Disney World is definitely not the kind of demographics who takes good care of their immune system. They're not the kind of people who would be drinking fermented tea, right? For one, right? And many of the people who got sick were vaccinated. A lot of people today are getting COVID-19 twice because they're not keeping their immune system strong, right? Yeah, I gotta point that out. But it made me really worried about potentially being forced to be vaccinated. I don't think we're ever going to have a vaccines or jail kind of situation, but opportunities are definitely gonna be very limited for people who want to stand up to themselves and not get vaccinated, right? And so later that year, as I was thinking about where to go on vacation, I decided to go to another country to go look for my future wife, to hopefully marry somebody outside of the country and to leave the mess behind. There's a lot of reasons I want to marry somebody from another country. For one, in the U.S., we like to talk about gender equality. It's become a joke. Reverse discrimination is pretty rampant, especially when it comes to marriage, right? Okay, and at the beginning of COVID-19, I had big fears about ending up in the hospital or ending up in a quarantine center. The few times I've been to the hospital here in the United States, every time I go there, I have to fight tooth and nail to get healthy food so that I can actually keep my body healthy and not get even more sick when I leave the hospital. Every fucking time. Sometimes that becomes the big motivation for me to stay healthy so I can stay out of the hospital. But to give you an idea, I was traveling in Poland when I got sick as well, and I ended up in the hospital. I ate some bat soup. Well, not bat soup, but raw fish that wasn't meant to be eaten raw. I got hospitalized for 2 days, and we had language barriers, obviously, but I did eventually get to the foods that I needed. And that was hard enough. But in the U.S., if I had done what I did in Poland here in the United States, they would have sent me to the mental health department of the hospital. I'm not exaggerating. I'm pretty sure they would have. And that became even more ammunition for me to want to check out of the country. At the beginning of COVID-19, in early to mid-March, before we had locked up our borders, I almost thought about flying out of the country to spend the quarantine in another country just in case I would get hospitalized. That's how bad the experience I had in the United States was. But then I realized it was kind of selfish of me to do that because I can't be the only person in my boat who's running into this problem. And if I do get hospitalized or locked up in a quarantine center, I want to actually fight for people in my boat. And to leave the country and to leave the mess behind for somebody else who might not be as well versed to deal with it, I thought that was kind of selfish. That was the main thing holding me back in the United States back in early March. And I can't tell you how many hours I've spent rehearsing what I would say to the hospital staff or to the people who want to put me in the mental health department or to the quarantine staff or even just to neighbors or people who might think I'm crazy. I can't tell you how many hours during this COVID-19 crisis I've spent on rehearsing that. And I'm a little bit saddened I actually didn't get to practice it, though, because I wanted to be a hero for the rest of the community who's dealing with this, the rest of the healthy eating community who's dealing with this. Lately, with the fear of someday being forced to get the COVID-19 vaccination, I've been starting to prep up a lot. You know, I talk about investment strategies, but lately I've been also thinking about growing my own food and potentially hunting or fishing or catching animals. Although I'm kind of a little bit, I kind of have to balance that against the potential of eating the next bat, right? Oh, that's been weighing heavily on me, right? How do I prep myself without causing a risk of that, right? But I encourage you to at least give this some thought. right? And don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Thanks for watching.